Hey, everybody. How's it going? We are live from Ben's attic.
Oh. Yeah, from my attic, man. All right, listen, before we get started, I just got this word. Frank sent me the text. Frank, what would I do without you? The updates you give me all the time. But Dick Kay died. And so I just want to give my condolences to his family. Dick Kay, legendary Chicago journalist for years and years at Channel 5 News. When I was a kid, just moved to Chicago in the 80s. Dick Kay would be the guy I'd watch on Channel 5, and he was this totally political geek. And then later on, as I advanced into my ancient years as well, Dick Kay was a voice that I heard on, what's the name of that radio station, D? You know, the one that fired me?
WCPT 820. They fired you.
I think Dick would get a kick out of me doing that because he knew what the business was like. But Dick Kay, of course, had the Saturday talk show on WCPT for years. And as such, he was very kind to me. He invited me on as a guest. And then at some point when he was taking a vacation, he had me on as a guest host. And one thing led to another. Then they hired me and then they fired me. But Dick Kay was a great gentleman. And I'm really sad to hear he died. He was really good to Dennis. Dennis was a producer on Dick Kay's show for a while. I got a lot of friends still at WCPT, and I won't mention them. I don't want them to get in trouble, but I'm thinking of all you guys now. Dick Kay was beloved at that station. I can tell you that right now. And he lived way out in the boonies somewhere.
St. Charles.
Oh, okay. You didn't have to reveal that I didn't know where he lived. You know what I'm saying?
I think you kind of revealed it calling it the boonies, but
I'm not sure I can identify where St. Charles is on the map. I know it's way out there. And once I drove all the way out there and I saw Tower of Power and War. Speaking of ancient groups that no one's ever heard of. Anyway, so he would schlep in to do the shows, and the guy was a real worker. He would come in for special assignments and election night coverage, and just was a gracious man, very open to new people in the business, welcomed me to the station, welcomed Dennis, of course. So my condolences to Dick Kay's family. And thank you, Dick Kay, for the great work you did as a journalist in the city of Chicago and as a talk show host at WCPT.
Your Ben Jaromsky Show for Thursday, May 13th is brought to you by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. It is Thursday, May 13th. And live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Jaromsky Show. Today on the program, the return of Tribune writer Gregory Pratt and the return of the Heartland Mamas. And now your host, not a Heartland Mama. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Jaromsky.
Yeah, hello everybody. Ben Jaromsky here. We're calling this Save the Tribune Thursday, and here's why. Because I want some rich guy to buy the Tribune and save it. That's why. Okay, let's back up, folks. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ben, you're all over the map with the Tribune. Day after day, you complain about it, and now you want to save it? You're psycho, Ben. We're going to start calling you Sybil. That's a reference to an ancient horror movie about a woman with split personalities that no one except for other baby boomers will get. So allow me to move on. Yes, you're right. When it comes to the Chicago Tribune, I am a little bit schizo. I've been known to rant and rail about some of its far-right columnists. What's up, Johnny Cash? That's Cass, not Cash, millennials. Johnny Cash is the singer. Johnny Cash is the right-wing columnist. And yes, I've been known to rail against their far-right, maybe even righter than Cass, editorial board. But that said, I am a loyal Tribune subscriber and have been subscribing to the Chicago Tribune since the 1980s. Every single day, a copy of the Tribune lands on my door, and every single day I peruse it and learn from it and comment about things I've learned from it on my show. And yes, I use those dumbass right-wing editorials as fodder to rip the right. Plus, they got some liberals in the Tribune now. Darling Glenn, I love Darling Glenn, and Rex Hupke. The dude's hilarious. And my old pal Eric Zorn and Clarence Page, they're liberal. So, it's not just all flat earth MAGA hat wearers and raw meat eaters writing editorials for the Tribune these days. Plus, and here's the thing, the local coverage. That's the key. I'm just going to give you an example from today's front page of the Chicago Tribune, home delivered. Here it is. Low on top hands, Lightfoot nears year 3. High-level vacancies mounting as pandemic puts pressure on city by John Byrne and Gregory Pratt. Yes, remember that name, Gregory Pratt, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be coming back to that name in a little while. I learned something about reading that story. And at a typical day on the Ben Joravsky Show, I'd be talking about it. And I'd be sending it to my guests and asking them to read it and asking them to opine on it. There's just something wrong about Lori Lightfoot that so many people are leaving City Hall. Is there something about her personality, her management style that is driving people away at the very time we need the best and the brightest on board to deal with all the problems we have? So you need that local coverage, folks. You know what? If it was up to Lori Lightfoot, and I'm just not picking on Lori Lightfoot, but if it was up to Lori Lightfoot or Rahm Emanuel or Mayor Daley, Richard M. Daley, it would just be nothing but press releases that the local papers would be covering. Ooh, whatever the mayor says, we're going to run it. The Board of Education would send out a press release and they would just plop it in the newspaper, and that's it. Just might as well open up your head and fill it with rocks. Tribune is very important voice on the local scene. I'll give you another story. Today's Bright One had a story by David Struett based on hacked emails about police crashes. That's not the Tribune, that's the Sun-Times, but the point is the continual efforts by all the leading papers to dig into those emails. We've talked about it at length. We had Maya on the show yesterday talking about the emails. Mick Dumke was talking about the emails. To dig into those emails and take out the worthwhile exchanges that the mayor doesn't want us to know about. Very important. By the way, while I'm at it, huge shout out to Michael Hawthorne. How can I forget Michael Hawthorne, environmental reporter at the Tribune? The dude was doing the heavy lifting on the lack of environmental oversight in the Trump era long before it was fashionable. And by the way, I know. It's not like I agree with every editorial in the Bright One either. So I don't agree with the editorials in the New York Times or the Washington Post either, and I subscribe to those newspapers. The world would be a boring place if I only read people I agreed with. Not that I'm not brightful and insightful, but you get my point. The other point is we need more local coverage in the city of Chicago. That's why I subscribe to the Tribune, the Sun-Times, Block Club, and I donate to the Reader. And that brings me back to my main point. A hedge fund named Alden is looking to buy the Tribune. We've talked about Alden's track record on this show before. I urge everyone to check out my interview with Evan Brandt. He's the reporter for the Mercury in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, whose paper was purchased by Alden, and they squeezed it dry. They're known for buying papers and firing the staff and trying to squeeze more profits out of them by getting more people to do less, which generally means less gets done. So maybe they won't have the reporters to take the deep dive through all those mayoral emails. And maybe they won't have Michael Hawthorne digging through the muck of the EPA. And maybe they won't allow two reporters, John Byrne and Gregory Pratt, to take the deep dive on Mayor Lightfoot's hiring practices. I'd say that's enough of my lecturing for the day, and I'll get off my soapbox, except this is a political podcast, and what else do I do but stand on my soapbox? So the bottom line is this. On May 21st, the Tribune shareholders will meet to decide whether to approve Alden's takeover of the Trib. And on Saturday, this Saturday, there will be protests sponsored by the Newspaper Guild to pressure stockholders to hold back on approving the deal until someone else steps up to buy the Trib. Maybe someone from the local area, someone from Chicago who's presumably more interested in investing in local journalism as opposed to squeezing it dry. We got a great show today, everybody. Gregory Pratt, he's already here. Gregory Pratt, the aforementioned Gregory Pratt, who is the Ace City Hall reporter for the Chicago Tribune. I already referred to his story on the front page of the paper. He's also, I think, the president of the Tribune Local. So I'll have to call him President Pratt throughout the show today. We'll be talking about the rally. And I may ask him a political question or two about City Hall, about some of his recent stories. But we'll mainly be talking about efforts to save the Tribune, maybe get a local buyer to rescue the Tribune. I got a lot of rich people listen to this show. Come on, guys, kick in, buy the Tribune, all right? And then the Heartland Mamas will join us, Heidi Henry and Murray Bream. We'll be talking Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and Joe Biden and infrastructure and mask rules and all the other political news of the day with the Heartland Mamas. We're going to take a break, and when we return, President Gregory Pratt will join us. Stick around, everybody.
And now, the list of things that you can buy at the Chicago Reader store at chicagoreader.com. Things to wear like Chicago Reader hats, t-shirts, bandanas, and face masks. Things for your daily life like the Chicago Reader camping mug, Chicago Reader tote bags, and a Chicago Reader reporter's notebook. Things for you to read like our Reader recipes, the Chicago Reader 420 Companion, our Chicago Reader Best of book series from journalists Maya Dukmasova, Mike Sula, Ben Jarofsky, and Leor Galil, the Chicago Reader coloring book, and the Chicago Reader Stay Home puzzle. Find the Chicago Reader store at chicagoreader.com and show your support for the nation's first free weekly newspaper since 1971. Hey, did you know that the original Constitution of Illinois in 1818 explicitly stated that only white males are eligible to vote? Did you know that? If not, don't worry, because that's no longer written in our Constitution. But over 200 years later, Illinois laws still disenfranchise primarily black populations through felony disenfranchisement. Silenced, an Unlock Civics documentary, is a story of the democracy we have created in the United States that silences millions of people who have been or are currently disenfranchised through incarceration. Premiering virtually on Thursday, May 13th at 6 p.m., Silenced, an Unlock Civics documentary, examines who is included in our democracy and who is left out. Reserve your free FREE, that's free. Reserve your free ticket at chicagovotes.com. Welcome back to the Ben Jarofsky Show, live from his attic.
As promised, joining us is the great Gregory Pratt, reporter for the Chicago Tribune, City Hall reporter for the Tribune, also president of the Chicago Tribune's local. Gregory, thanks for coming on the show on short notice to talk about what's going on at the Trib.
Always my pleasure.
I think this is your second time on the show. Each time you were talking about the Trib. And the one time you were on, we also did a deep dive about Chicago politics and schools. But let's start with the Tribune. I've opened with alluding to what I call the Alden threat. Why don't you go into a little greater detail to explain why so many reporters and editors and staffers at the Tribune are concerned about a potential Alden takeover at the paper?
Well, straight from the fires of hell, there was a company that was run by vampires that came out and it decided that it was going to buy newspapers. It is a hedge fund called Alden Global Capital. It buys newspapers and it guts them for profit. You know, they rely on the force of habit that somebody like you has been subscribing their whole life and is not going to stop even once the quality goes down, that it'll take you a significant period of time to finally throw in the towel because it's part of your life routine. And they will gut it. They will fire people. They will make cuts and they will find ways to milk it. It's very profitable, you know, and newspapers have challenges, but they still make money. So they're still profitable. The Tribune is a financially healthy company. It's got a couple $100 million in the bank, no debt, and should be investing to grow, but instead it's being mismanaged. But Alden bought in a couple years ago as the majority shareholder, and now they want to buy it outright and take full control. And that vote for shareholders is scheduled for May 21st. And so there's a couple of things that we've been doing is one, we've waged a proxy campaign to tell people to vote no, don't support this. This is aside from the mushy feelings that you and I share about newspapers and about journalism and about civic society, it's not a good offer. It's a lowball offer. The company is worth more than Alden is offering. And Alden is going to screw over the company because they have the right to saddle it with a couple $100 million of debt. So they claim they're going to buy it with cash, but they're reserving the right to saddle it with debt, which really means that they're planning to saddle it with debt. So on the 21st, the shareholders will vote, and we have a pretty vigorous campaign to tell shareholders not to. There's a man named Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, who is a billionaire doctor who owns the LA Times. He owns about a quarter of the outstanding stock, and he can single-handedly stop the deal. I've actually personally written him a letter saying, we believed in you when you bought the LA Times and in what you were trying to do, and we're asking you to believe in us and prevent Alden from taking full control. he has not responded at this time. I actually just sent it a little while ago, but and other people have sent messages to Dr. Soonshang because he can single-handedly stop it, and we will still be in a crisis because Alden will be the majority shareholder. But there's a difference between being the majority shareholder and owning something outright. And along those same lines, on Saturday at 5 p.m., we're going to have a rally and a protest outside the Freedom Center, which is our printing plant, to demonstrate for the newspaper and to draw attention to it. And hopefully Ken Griffin and Fred Eichner, two ideological enemies, can get together and say, we're going to buy the Tribune. We're going to be best friends and run a paper. I don't care who it is, but somebody needs to buy the newspaper that is not Alden.
Yeah. By the way, so you've been out, as I said, you don't hold back, as everybody could just ascertain from what you said. And this is the second time you come on this show and have said it. Has there been any repercussions for speaking out, for speaking your mind about the future from Alden?
No, I have labor protections to talk about the workforce conditions that my workplace and conditions. Labor law protects me. I don't worry about that. I am one of and I probably sound like an egomaniac to some of your listeners, or to you even, but I'm a very valuable reporter for the Chicago Tribune. I work very hard for them. I get a lot of scoops. I beat my competition on a regular basis on the toughest, most competitive beat in town. So I don't. I have a legal right to do it, and I also. I'm not just out here talking about we need to save the paper from this bad ownership, which, by the way, is not anti-Tribune. It's actually very pro-Tribune, and I don't worry about it, but I haven't been hassled, partly because it's my right.
All right, you mentioned Ken Griffin and Fred Eichner. Fred, how you doing? Hope you're doing well.
Ken listens too.
Yes, Ken's a big listener. Kenny G, as I like to call him, and they represent two completely different sides of the political spectrum. Ken Griffin is very conservative, and Fred Eichner is very liberal. In fact, he owned the radio station WCPT that I mentioned earlier in the show. So, what would your direct appeal, not literally to Fred and Kenny G, but to any prominent Chicagoan who has the bank account big enough to purchase the Tribune, what would they get out of buying the Tribune?
Well, if you care about Chicago, you can't turn away from what's happening at the Chicago Tribune. We just did an investigation about fires and how there were deadly fires where the city knew they were fire traps and they didn't do anything. We have done investigations about prescription drugs and how the whole system nationwide fails to protect people from dangerous combinations. We just won a national award for our coverage of Mayor Lightfoot, which is tight. We hold her to high standards. We make sure that she does what she's saying. And whether or not you agree with any specific article or columnist, every day we keep the public informed. And if you want to see a society with a couple diminished news outlets and Facebook is ruling the land, you are screwed. Our city is screwed. The city has profound problems, even with a lot of journalists paying attention, and yet they're still able to we're still able to right wrongs and draw attention to things that need fixing. I'll give you an example from federal prosecutors that I thought was interesting. When they recently did their filing on Ed Burke, they talked about how Ed Burke got scared around the post office because of an expose about illegal lobbying. So the Tribune read all of Rahm's emails that he was ordered to release by a judge. He settled in this case. It was the emails lawsuit. He had settled. He released a bunch of emails, and people were illegally lobbying him on his private email left and right, and people had to pay fines. And Ed Burke, who at the time was maybe the most powerful man in Chicago, who is not Rahm and who is not Madigan. He was probably number 3 in the hierarchy. He was certainly more powerful in 2018 than the governor. He was more powerful than the Tribune did an expose and he got scared because he knew that the Tribune was getting close. The importance of that is almost impossible to quantify, but the notion that the biggest paper might get sucked into a black hole by ravenous vampires should be deeply chilling to everyone. And I don't want to spend someone else's money, but it's a fraction. Saving the Tribune would be a fraction of what Ken Griffin is worth or what Fred Eichner is worth. It's probably a fraction of what you're worth too, but everyone knows you're loaded. But it's doable and it needs doing, and somebody needs to save the paper.
Well put. Yeah, I may buy it. Wouldn't that be something if all of a sudden I revealed that I am a multi-gazillionaire and I just bought the Tribune and called Greg in, son, come in my office here. I want to talk to you about your City Hall coverage. Greg would go, please talk to my union representative. Let's talk about the hacked emails and the relevance of local press in terms of the hacked emails. And again, as I said, we've been talking about this on the show a lot, Gregory. Lori Lightfoot's emails were hacked, or emails that various Lightfoot aides were sending to each other. You can read them yourselves. Tommy Shuba over at the Sun-Times is chronicling them, doing a great job. Shout out to young Thomas. And
I think that.
What's that? Yeah. Oh, no, Tommy's a great reporter. Anyway, there's at least 4 that I know of that are working, plowing through these emails. The Tribune, the Sun-Times, the Reader, and Block Club. And plowing through these emails. I mean, folks, this is boring stuff, plowing through emails, but there are nuggets of information in there that only a sophisticated reporter, and that's how I view it, could figure out, like, this is newsworthy. Let's put the context around it so you understand why it's newsworthy. But you're also doing it in the face of opposition from Mayor Lightfoot, who right out said, chastise reporters. She's like, loves lecturing reporters. She's supposed to be, I think what she's done, Gregory, she's going to be a journalism professor. And she said, I'd be really wary and cautious about quoting from these emails because they were stolen and we don't even know if they're legitimate. Leaving open the possibility they were fabrications, that somebody spent his or her time making up emails. So talk about the significance of having local reporters to take that deep dive and go through these emails.
Well, they're revelatory about how things work behind the scenes. To me, there's certainly revelations. There's new stuff all the time, but big picture, it all sort of jives together with what I hear, with what you hear, what you would understand. But there's a lot of fascinating stuff. I thought one of the better stories that came out was by the Sun-Times about how, according to an internal analysis, 60% of car chases by cops ended in crashes, which is a lot. I mean, it's a shocking number. And that's according to their chief litigation person, Tamika Puckett, who did an analysis for the mayor. There was an interesting one where the mayor, who was privately seething with Pritzker last summer about, indoor dining in restaurants, they were talking about maybe we can just stop enforcing it, or let's defy the ban. And they didn't do it, but it's actually pretty interesting, because it was something that they had been. It would have been an extra step that they didn't take. I'm not sure how it would have gone over. The mayor probably didn't want to look weak because she does not have power over the governor. The governor's orders rule. And so of course, though, the governor wasn't going to send in the state police to shut stuff down. But anyway, it's a really fascinating look at the behind the scenes of how these people who make decisions, how they make the decisions, how they come to it. There's a lot of PR polishing, the sort of butt kissing that is common in every administration, ruling by press release, trying to say, okay, well, we're the best, we're the smartest, we're the first, we're the fastest, all of these things. It's a really good exercise in understanding what happens behind the scenes. And so I found some of it revelatory. There's stories coming. There's and everyone's going to be doing different stories that draw their attention, and that's beautiful. That's democracy. The thing about, the emails may be hacked, that's just something politicians say. It's kind of a standard line because she wants to avoid answering questions about this stuff because it's embarrassing. There's no evidence any of these hacks were any of these emails were fabricated. It's kind of it is a dubious claim, let's say.
Well, I said on the show, even though I've devoted a lot of time to the emails, I have said on the show, there's something unseemly about hacking emails. I wouldn't want my emails hacked. Not that there's anything interesting in them other than revealing my fabulous fortune, which I will use to buy the Tribune. But other than revealing my fabulous fortune, there's really nothing interesting except for me talking about the Bulls, and I don't even know how interesting that is. So there's something a little unseemly about it. That said, Gregory, there's a little something unseemly about the way City Hall manages news and manages our view of what they're doing and tries to sort of like cover up the truth or divert our attention from embarrassing revelations about what they're up to. And so if you're not going to give us like real honesty, these emails help us. That's my takeaway. What's your thoughts?
Sometimes, and this is giving them the benefit of the doubt, the politicians, the politicians are constantly on first dates and they're trying to put their best foot forward. And they're trying to say, well, sometimes I go a couple of days without showering and, I do this or that's no good. And so you don't say that on a first date. So I give a break to politicians and to their staff for trying to put their best foot forward. But you see a lot of BS in these emails too, which is not something that you can give them a break on. There was a good example last summer, one of my favorite stories. We won a national award for it, where the mayor, after the looting in June, goes to the parking lot of a Jewel in Woodlawn and says, "We're going to give $10 million to looted businesses." They give out $280,000 in the emails, and they tried to spin it when I was reporting it. They said, well, because they gave $6 million for COVID relief, and they gave 280 to 272, I think, to looted businesses. And they're like, well, it was always a COVID and looting fund. And that's just not true. I mean, I went back, I watched her speech from June 2nd in that parking lot. Not true. There's no truth to it. And eventually one of the spokespeople says, there's no dancing around this one. He's going to ding us pretty hard. But, they did a lot of dancing. And it's like, on some level, you got to be able to shake hands and say, yeah, we messed up. And you know what? We said we wanted to give 10 million, but then we realized that there's a bureaucratic nightmare around insurance and red tape and all sorts of things. And instead you're trying to say, well, no, we never meant to give 10 million to looted businesses. We meant to give 6 million to COVID and 272,000 to looted businesses. And it's like, well, yeah, that's true. If you stand on your head upside down, you close your eyes and you forget everything that you know. I mean, let's cut the crap. I don't like wasting their time with a lot of bluster or bluffing, and I don't like having my time wasted. And every administration does it. Some do it more than others. This administration does it more than they would have led you to believe when they were running in 2019. But it is what it is. It's part of the circle of life.
Yeah, well, I had this conversation yesterday, and I'm probably going to write a column about this. I've been around so long, Gregory. I've seen the evolution of press office at City Hall and the Board of Education. Those are the main two institutions I've dealt with in this town. And it's evolved. And they've moved from essentially being basic bread and butter public information officers who more or less gave you a response to whatever you asked within an hour. I say this and the other reporters laugh at me. No, man, back in the day, Steve Brown, my good pal, Steve Brown, who worked for Michael Joseph Madigan, but before that, he worked for Jay Byrne. He would be the guy I would talk to at City Hall. This years ago. And they would get back to you, and it could be BS, Greg, and they make fun of your questions. And but the reality is, it's not like it is now, where it's like, they've turned into strategists or operatives. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so they comb through your question and try to to fabricate some response that will fit in with whatever they said the day before. It's like a whole press operation. You know what I mean? It's like an ongoing campaign orchestrated by a David Axelrod type, as opposed to just some guy giving you basic information. So I have seen this evolution, Greg.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's all in the game. I just don't want to be lied to, and I don't want my time wasted.
There you go. That bottom line. All right. Before I let you go, I know you're really busy. One more time, tell folks about the rally that's happening this Saturday. Go ahead.
Well, Saturday at Halstead and Grand, the Freedom Center, we're having a rally to save local news to support the Chicago Tribune. Come on out. Let's tell the vampires what we think of them, and let's see what we can do.
Will you be speaking, Greg?
I will be, yes.
President Pratt will be making an address, his first formal address as president. I look forward to it. I'm sure the press operatives in the Gregory Pratt campaign will be spitting out press releases for the next 24 hours or so, getting us ready for it.
They're gonna give me some grief for being a little too excited in the beginning as I described my friends at Alden, but it is what it is. Anyway, thank you, Ben.
All right, Gregory Pratt from the Chicago Tribune. That's this Saturday. Thanks a lot, Gregory. Appreciate it. The Heartland Mamas are standing by, the great Murray Brio and the equally great Heidi Henry, and we're going to bring them on. We're going to, they're going to be giving me some grief about Adam. Heidi Henry cannot resist. She's ready to give me grief about Kinzinger. I don't know, but what's curious, will she praise Liz Cheney while criticizing Adam Kinzinger? The world awaits. We're going to bring on the Heartland Mamas after we take this brief break.
Just turn the car around.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit is what I think. If you think we
no offense, well, fuck you then.
Hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from his attic.
Gets me every time. Raylo and Lori Lightfoot going at it. By the way, that was Michael Girardi. I just want to let the cat out of the bag. we're not all in the same studio. Obviously, it's Google Meet, but I could see Murray Briel and I could see Heidi Henry. And when Michael Girardi did that stinging guitar solo and I Want to Be Centrist, Murray Briel was playing air guitar and she was good, man. She was like, well, yeah.
Yeah, I was. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty good.
I want to be a. We're going to have some people. We're going to have a centrist on next week. PC Peter Cunningham will be joining us. He's always good to have a centrist on every now and then, folks, on a lefty show. But right now, I got a couple of lefty sorts, Heidi Henry and Murray Briel. Before I take the deep dive, Murray, just tell folks about your podcast so that they can hear your show after they listen to the show. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on again, man. We love this. The Heartland Mamas is a podcast from the edge of the Great Red Divide. Heidi and I are former candidates, activists, apparently also cannabis fans, because that's what was about to come out of my mouth. And what we do is we bring you issues facing you at a local, state, federal, and world level. And we do deep dives on Heartland Mamas Unrolled. And you can see us live on Facebook after Ben's show, 3 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and anywhere else you get your favorite podcasts. Heartland Mamas.
Heartland Mamas. All right. So it's important that we discuss. We'll start off with Adam Kinzinger, a favorite topic of ours. And the reason why that's important is that Murray ran against, well, she didn't literally run against him, but she ran for the right in the Democratic primary to 16th Congressional to run against Adam Kinzinger. And Heidi Henry has been a big opponent as well of Adam Kinzinger, and they always get just a touch annoyed when people like me praise Adam Kinzinger because he's one of the few Republicans who dares to speak up against Donald Trump. And
one time. Let's
all right. So let's get Heidi's view of Kinzinger at the moment, and then Murray, you weigh in with your view. So Heidi, started us off.
Kinzinger says one thing that makes him a decent humane remark. One remark. This is a man that's voted repeatedly to take away health care, that's voted to put kids in cages, that would bomb black and brown people, anybody not white, because he can. He is a waste of skin and oxygen, and the fact that people give him credit for being a decent guy, he is doing a calculated political move, realizing that the GOP is going to implode, and he's a fairly young man. So even if it takes him 20 years to come back from this, he's going to come back better than ever. Yeah, at least in his mind's eye. Don't praise him. He's not worthy. A 98% with Trump voting record makes him unworthy of anyone's praise. Even his own mother doesn't like him.
Okay, but she could be a Trump supporter. All right, Murray, take it away.
All right. I do agree with Heidi in what she said. I think at least my perception is there's a difference between Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Now, Liz Cheney is absolutely fundamentally, her beliefs are the opposite of mine, and I think she's horrible. Again, the 98% voting record with Trump. But the difference is, I truly, genuinely believe that this is not about a power thing for her or shifting the whole party behind her. For her, it is actually about truth and the Constitution. She's kind of like a Mitt Romney in that way, right?
Yeah.
And so while I appreciate Adam standing up and saying, this is ridiculous, this is shenanigans, it's not true. And I can say, good for you. The intent behind it, I do not believe is pure. There's not a pure motive there. It was a calculated decision made to place himself for Illinois senator. He tried for years to get Trump's attention. Remember the little "I'd be Secretary of the Air Force" stunt? And he didn't even get a nod. He used to post pictures with President Trump and Ivanka and him and go Trump, and he could never get on the guy's radar. Okay, he's such a backbencher, he couldn't even get on Trump's radar. All right, and when he finally realized that, he's like, all right, I got nothing better to do. I got nothing. Oh, that's my take.
All right. Before we go to Liz Cheney in particular, Heidi, you said something that I jotted down. I want you to go to elaborate on it and then get Murray's views on it. The GOP is going to implode.
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, insurrection is not sustainable, right? And so what the GOP is asking, Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise and others are asking the Republicans across the USA to do is to fall in line and believe in the insurrection and believe in the big lie, right? And we know that it's not true. And at some point, people, and we see it in the poll numbers for Trump because they're dropping like a stone. But what is happening is that there's no way that this is sustainable. I mean, at some point, the infighting is going to happen. They keep eating their own. It's a circular firing squad. And we've seen the Democrats do that. That's usually a Democratic move, is to be in a circular firing squad, right? But now we see the Republicans doing it. And I don't see how they can leverage their way out of this. Either you're in favor of the overthrow of the government of the United States or you're not. That is the simple bottom line on all of this. And I don't think most Republicans are going to do it. I think, we're seeing them defect from the party in large numbers. Most are becoming independents, but and very few are going to be Democrats. If you're a Republican with libertarian tendencies, you're not going to become a Democrat. If you hate LGBTQ people, you're not going to become a Democrat. If you hate, socialized medicine, if you hate Medicare for all, you're not going to become a Democrat because those are the talking points. They've beat into the ground forever.
All right, Murray, take it away.
I love you. And this is the reason Heidi and I make such amazing partners, because Heidi still has faith in humans and I do not.
That's true, Murray. That's true.
You gotta look at it from this perspective. Okay. So you are correct. Every stretch of the imagination, the realm of logic that exists within our tiny little world in this big universe, nothing they do or have done has made sense, but it continues to grow. And here's why. Because they are the masters, we talked about this, of communication, and people don't have information. People don't have accurate information, and they're the master of phrases. People have short memories, humans have very short memories. It will not take long before they can find some issue to unite fear and hate. And all it takes is the right buttons. And I'm sorry, I don't think they're going to implode. Do I think that they're Republican anymore? No, I think they're Trumplican. I think they should just call their party Trumplicans and move on. Create a third party in the GOP then. But humans they're ridiculous. They don't make any sense. They vote against their own interests all the time. They're tied to a tiny little social construct because their brains can't think anything outside of that. So no, I think we're still screwed.
I think about the Republicans using messaging, and what was the line that Rand Paul, in that thing that lives on his head, said the other day about juicing an issue, and he's exposing conspiracy theories to Dr. Fauci, and I'm listening to him. I'm like, why didn't we think of juicing? Why do they always think of the fun words that people would use?
Yeah, the Republicans are very good at coming up with universal principles to support whatever position they have at that very moment. And as I love to point out, they will abandon those principles at a moment's notice when it's not convenient for them to hold those principles. And then they'll have another universal principle, which will completely contradict the one that they had the day before. And if you're just following along, as Murray was saying, as a dutiful MAGA hat wearer, you just take the message. And you follow with the message. Go ahead, Heidi.
That's true. I mean, out here where I live in rural Illinois, it is red. It's 60% Republican, which is a big reason I didn't win. But, the problem is that, trying to get people who will vote R no matter what. I mean, we talk about voting blue no matter who. I mean, they really double, triple, quadruple down on this. And I think if it comes to it, and Kinzinger is your guy with the R next to his name, going against Tammy Duckworth, they're going to vote for him, even though they frickin' hate him right now. And he may pull with this rhetoric. His move is to try to pull enough suburbanites out that think, oh, what a decent Republican. And he's not.
Exactly. And the only way that will be derailed is if Trump paid attention to him and put money behind backing another candidate. But we all know Trump isn't going to put any money behind anyone except himself.
He's just putting it in his pocket. It's just
right. So the only way he would tank out is if Trump sabotaged him. Otherwise, he's going to give Duckworth a hell of a run.
All right. Before we get to Duckworth, there's the issue of whether he runs for re-election in the 16th. And then there's the issue of the remapping and what will the 16th look like. We've talked about this. We don't know how the Dems in Illinois, I'm happy to say this, control the map process, unlike in Wisconsin where the Republicans control it, and Michigan where the Republicans control it. And so they have a decision to make, Murray Brill, which is which congressional district are they going to obliterate? Because we're going to lose one. So which one are we going to obliterate, and who gets protected? And so it's right. Adam Kinzinger's career, and he is very ambitious, as you say, is up in the air while he awaits the redistricting process.
So that is why he made this conscious move, him and his PR wife, to do this, because he will announce he's running for Senate against Tammy Duckworth, because she's up next year. So we're going to see a lot of primaries coming up, and I haven't heard a peep about anybody else wanting to run.
Well, I could tell you, I'm going to throw this out there. One thing I've been watching about the Republican Party post January 6th is they completely united around Donald John Trump. They've proclaimed him as their imperial grand wizard, the leader of their party, and they will follow him wherever he goes. That's the reality. And Donald Trump is going to go from state to state, district to district, and anoint certain candidates, bless them with his endorsement. And those candidates will have clearly the advantage in a primary. He's made it clear already in Wyoming. Will? Yes.
Yes, Wyoming, because he's after Cheney. She was leadership. But again, Adam hasn't gotten any of the blowback from Trump. He is so removed from Trump's circle of attention that, he hasn't gotten any in that respect. And I just feel like Trump will put himself behind a few who opposed him, but only a few who worship him. And so if somebody doesn't run against Adam or these other folks, he's not even going to be on their radar. Well, I think he's going to put his resources toward just a few pets. That's what typically people do.
Kinzinger is, so widely ignored by the far right part of the Republican Party that when he called McCarthy before January 6th and said, look, you've got to pay attention to this. And McCarthy just kind of blew him off. I'm thinking they really don't care about him. Give us directions to your office, please. That's all I can think of him saying. But yeah, here's the thing with redistricting. I'm a little concerned because Sherry Bustos is stepping down, and she won by the skin of her teeth last time. So I don't know if they think that she's not strong enough to continue, or if they will redistrict in a manner to push like her red areas into Adam's red areas and give the blue areas to somebody else. I don't know how they
it could go down toward Lauren Underwood's district, but it could go over West.
I don't know.
It
I think could win out here.
Well, what they generally do.
I love Lauren. I walked for Lauren. I love Lauren. Donated to her campaign. 100% behind her. She is one of the most intelligent, thoughtful, wonderful people that grace the Congress. But I know where I live, and I know, sorry, the hairy bubbas are never, even in the Democratic Party out here, will not get behind her because she's a woman of color.
The general tactic of gerrymandering, which is what the Democrats will be doing, whether they admit it or not, which is what the Republicans
They
do.
Of course they do it.
And the Republicans brag about it. Democrats pretend they don't do it. That right there says everything you need to know about Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats pretend as though it's a legit game. You know what I'm saying? It's just sort of like to please the editorial boards. And it's like the Republicans couldn't care less.
Right.
But so what you do is you take a look at the map. You got computers do all the work, and you figure out where the heavy, hardcore red precincts are, and you, as much as possible, pack them into one district.
Yeah.
So that, you don't care what it looks like. So like the 16th, every time I'd have a candidate from the 16th come on my show, Neil Muhammad, Danny B, Sarah, I'd go, okay, guys, could you explain me the 16th district? And there would be this convoluted, complicated, well, it starts at Wisconsin, Ben, and then it swings down and goes underneath Chicago, and it's all gerrymandered. You know that, Murray Briel. It was
Exactly. And Ben, you are so spot on. And that's why we think it's going to carve this way. Because again, they're going to, you remember, there's like 15,000 people in one town. And then 20 miles away, there's like 5,000 people. And so it is going to be another awful, nasty, crazy district. I mean, it's not even the geographic distance is ridiculous. I think the only district that's bigger is the farthest south one. It's crazy.
Yeah, that you're talking about Mary Miller's district.
The evil Mary Miller.
The Nazi.
Nazi Hitler
Miller
was right.
Yeah.
Mary Miller, the Nazi, and her husband, the insurrectionist, who had his Chris. We love them.
Illinois' power fascist couple, as we've referred to.
Yes, we do. Illinois' power fascists.
Those are the Heartland mamas, ladies and gentlemen. They ran in red country. Heidi Henry ran for state. That's where I met her. She was running for state senator. I go, Heidi, why don't you just push your message a little to the right to pick up some of these swing voters? Hell no. She was like FDR. I love this girl, but this is an uphill battle, man.
I've come to realize, Ben, that I would be terrible at being a senator because I don't think I could give on things that would help people. I watch people out here where I live, all these red hat wearers, and they will shoot themselves in the foot to prove their loyalty to they will give all their money to the top 10% of the 1% to prove their loyalty to Trump.
You have got a lot of Dinos out there.
Yeah,
you have a lot
of being one of them.
Right. My state senator. Okay, she voted. She's a Democrat. She voted against the crime bill. She voted against another bill. Come on, seriously, like, really.
Well, that's the strategy. We've talked about this in the past. We're not going to redo it, but Michael Madigan, that was the strategy they followed. They allowed leeway. He allowed leeway to his caucus members to vote whichever way would protect them at the ballot box. And he on the other side, look for votes that he can embarrass Republicans with. So you get them to make a bad vote, and you just blitz the district with flyers.
Absolutely.
That's 101 of power politics as practiced by Michael Madigan. And while it preserves a Democratic majority, it doesn't do a lot to promote what used to be called progressive issues. I call them lefty issues, but it doesn't do a lot to promote those kinds of progressive issues because you're always backing away.
Not at all. Heidi was brilliant. Heidi, your center concept. Remind Ben about your center concept. How every time we do the center, she's fantastic.
Every time we step to the center, we step to the right, and we have to stop that. We've given up so much ground. And you have to remember, Ben, I'm old enough to have lived through Nixon and Reagan, and to remember what it was like before, and to know that the reason we paint murals of the 50s and 60s and the 40s, late 40s on the side of all the empty buildings out here is because that's when we had prosperity down here in the heartland. And we've allowed the Republican Party through Reaganomics to to destroy every single little bit of middle class wealth. Mm-hmm. And when you only have two classes, there is nothing to rise to. You cannot jump over poverty to get to the upper class. You just can't. It's too big of a leap. So when you remove that middle class, which Reagan knew, or Reagan's handlers knew, you have a bunch of working poor. And that's what they wanted. They wanted the feudal system to come back because that's what Reaganomics was designed to do, is to restore the feudal system.
Mercenary capitalism.
Yep. And it's hard to watch people
unbridled capitalism, mercenary
that will vote against Medicare for all while they're dying of lung cancer. It's like, what the hell is the matter with you? So
well, just look at Georgia. They just said they were cutting off the additional federal unemployment assistance for their state people who are receiving unemployment because they're not going to work. No, they're not going to work because either their kids aren't out of school yet, or they found a way to make ends meet, or they can't afford the babysitter and the $10 an hour job at the same time. And the risk of getting COVID and the emotional toll that it has taken and what we've all been through for a year, they're like, screw you.
It's
oh
like
my goodness.
They have to prove their cruelty by doing things like that. And
why? What is wrong with you? Because Hooters doesn't have 3 girls with their tatas out. Somebody's got to wait 5 more minutes for wings, Georgia. You're going to be like, oh, let's take away that money. Maybe if we paid servers a living freaking wage and got rid of the stupid tip system, maybe you'd have more people going back to work. Maybe you'd have people wanting to risk their lives for $10 an hour. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's people aren't willing to do that.
That was Murray Briel on a great riff, by the way. She will be singing lead in Michael Girardi's next song, I Want to Be a Centrist. All right, let's talk about the great hope to win over voters in your neck of the woods, and that would be the infrastructure bill I'm thinking of. Do you think that the way Joe Biden has set it up, it will be popular in your area, Heidi and Murray? Or do you think somehow or other, as Murray was just talking about, the Republicans will find a way to sort of turn a bill that helps people into a bill they should oppose? Go ahead.
Well,
okay, Heidi, I gotta go real quick, and then I'll let you go. I swear. Okay, they already are turning it into something evil.
Yeah.
So, as if I don't have enough anxiety, I watch Fox News periodically, or listen to Fox News radio just so that I can hear the absolute batshit arguments that the other idiots are making. And today, just so happens that in the matter of an hour, you had Steve Scalise talking about why the Congress initiated an investigation. Remember the shooting back in 2018? Yeah. The baseball field?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why that was not declared a hate crime because it was against Republicans. And I kid you not, that's what they're focused on. And on the flip side, you have, oh my gosh, where is it? I'm going to lose my mind. Who is the knuckle? Oh, Senator Kennedy from the great state of Louisiana, right?
Kennedy, yeah.
Was out there today with the infrastructure plan saying we have to understand that you can't take fossil fuels away from this great nation. Mm-hmm. Nobody has a electric car charger. Why do we need, hardly anybody has electric cars. Why do we need to have electric cars? But the best part about it was he said, we have to start realizing that energy doesn't come from fairy dust and unicorn urine. And I was like, are you kidding? Seriously? So that's how they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it by attacking it as being progressive. They're going to kill it by attacking it as being your fossil fuels. You're not going to be able to heat your house. You're going to have to not eat cows. Aliens are going to get you. It doesn't matter because they'll believe anything.
You know, it's very much like watching fair tax go down in flames here in Illinois. It's like, what is wrong with you people? When I knocked on doors, and I knocked on my team, and I knocked on 97,000 doors total, and that's a lot of doors because we knocked on everybody's doors, and Republican or Democrat, and people would tell me that that they didn't want health care for all, and that they didn't want, they'd go through the litany of stuff that they didn't want, and I look at them and I think, what is so wrong with wanting something for yourself instead of Betsy DeVos having another yacht? I just don't understand why you're fighting the battle for another yacht for Betsy. And in fair tax, the thing that they tell me over and over and over again is my property taxes are too high. Well, we had the perfect way to lower property taxes by changing how we fund schooling. And here we are. Here we are still in the same boat so that they can blame Pritzker now because the property taxes are too high. Listen, they've been high under every single governor, It doesn't change because JB's there. It changes because we didn't pass fair tax. So it's the same sort of rhetoric. You know, they've been schooled and taught to laud and honor in the Kardashian world that we live in, to laud and honor wealth and frivolity and shallowness rather than depth and caring about human beings. So I just really need to see Biden put this through budget reconciliation, because we really are going to have to cram this down American throats. And I hate to say it that way, but Ben, it is legitimately, it's the medicine that is good for the people of this nation. And we can't sit here and not do it because of the blowback. It has to be done. Number one, we have to divest ourselves from fossil fuels, or we are all going to die as a species. And it won't matter if you have an R or a D after your name, and it won't matter the color of your skin or the color of your hair. It's going to kill us. And it may not kill us in your and my lifetime, but you know, it's kind of a lot of the reason when I talk to my kids' friends why they don't have children, because they don't see a sustainable environment coming. They don't see a pathway to not prosperity, but just to being able to survive in this world. They don't see anything out there to provide for a child. Why should I do this? You know, why should I bring a kid into this mess? And that's what I hear over and over and over again. They can't afford it anyway. So, you know, it is the medicine that they need, and we are going to have to hold our nose and cram it down our throats, you know? And I'll be right there with the plunger to push it in.
Well, I'm going to remind you something. I'm going to do to you what you do to me, play devil's advocate with you, and then get your response, Heidi, and then Murray, you weigh in. It was about a year ago, Heidi.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, and I apologize, whoever the guest was. I'm sure it was a great guest, but it was an environmentalist talking about the need for the Green New Deal, even if it means people lose jobs, are lost in the energy field. And you weighed in you had some, the next time we were on the show, and you said that you can't have that attitude, sort of that cavalier attitude about people losing their jobs. That first of all, politically, it leads to Republicans exploiting it, like John Kennedy was trying to do in Louisiana. But secondly, it's just cavalier and unfeeling and uncaring to people who are losing their jobs. And so there has to be a different, message put out there.
So I really think that the way this bill is structured, the way it's structured is to take people from the fossil fuel industry and retrain them to new jobs, not just temporary, but jobs that will last the rest of their careers. And I think that's the message that's missing here. Why was I not in favor of keeping the Pony Express? Because it was an antiquated system that needed to be replaced by something better, right? So fighting for fossil fuels is like fighting for the Pony Express. Fighting for the healthcare system we have right now is fighting for the Pony Express. The history is in the past. Fossil fuels are in the past, and we are progressing forward. I can't even tell you how many people I know that have purchased electric cars recently. You can't find a Volt or a Bolt to save your life, and those are the more affordable versions of Teslas. So, you know, the thing with him saying about the charging stations, well, you know, to be honest with you, why I didn't buy one is because we wanted road trip. And you can't, when you go west into the red states, there aren't as many charging stations, because especially when you go into Kansas and Texas and Oklahoma, those are states that are really rooted in fossil fuels. And they're like, no, you know, but we have to understand that the conversation is being steered by a small group of people that have a vested interest in fossil fuels, and we need to do what's good for the nation. And like I said, bringing it all back around, is the Biden's jobs program is going to change our country in such a good and positive way, like FDR did, but this time more inclusive for women and more inclusive for not white people. That's what I love about it. And when I read it, I'm like, oh, I have so much hope, you know? So there I go, Marie. I'm hopeful again.
I wish I could get some of that. That'd be great. I live in a real world. So
urine.
Yeah, I don't live in unicorn urine like under fairy dust. I don't know. That was just so bizarre. He's saying, I can't even.
You know, Heidi, you mentioned Tesla. And
yeah.
I don't think I've articulated this thought. I've had it late at night when I'm walking down the street, the weird things I think of. But Elon Musk Very interesting character. I follow him. That's one of my mini obsessions. He's revered by people on the right. He's Joe Rogan. He's a regular. Well, he has been on the Joe Rogan show, and Joe Rogan's always championing him. Joe Rogan, for people who don't know, is kind of leans right podcaster, hugely successful podcaster, perhaps the most successful podcaster in America.
We know who Joe Rogan is.
Well, I know, but
not my cup of tea.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so Elon Musk, people on the right love him, revere him because he's so rich, and I believe at the moment he may be the wealthiest man on the world in the world, ahead of Zuckerberg and Gates. So he's so wealthy, and they revere him because they revere wealth, and yet the industry that he's riding is electric car industry, which they mock and deride and talk about how there's no future in it. And Trump's still making fun of windmills whenever he can. You sent me that, right? Was it? No, maybe it was Frank. Somebody sent me a text of Trump's speech denouncing windmills. And I was like,
we dodged windmill cancer a couple times on our trips for COVID.
Yeah.
The mixed message.
I know.
And Elon Musk alone. I mean,
it's such a mercantilist message, isn't it? Law and honor, wealth at any cost.
Everything
Even
is.
when you hate, even when you hate what brought that wealth forward, that's such a mercantilist message. It's just horrible.
Yes.
Anyway. But
it's
like, why do we laud and honor the Kardashians because of a porn tape? Really, seriously, that's where it all started. But people are like, ooh, look at them. They're such influencers. And I'm like, I don't know that I would have had the same reaction had it been my daughter, but
By the way, speaking of which, I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I'm following this closely. Another mini obsession of mine, right up there with Elon Musk, the California recall election where they're attempting to recall. And you mentioned the Kardashians, so into my mind popped Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Who has to understand her party hates her? I mean,
well, she hates herself, and she hates the LGBTQ community. She literally hates the community she's a part of. It's like living in some sort of demented, acid-tripped Groundhog Day, because, Groundhog Day, it's the same goddamn day over and over and over again. Right. And in the demented version, everything is like upside down world. And yet you never get it right. It just keeps repeating and with the insanity. And I feel like that's what hell would be if there was a hell, and I would be there.
All the Republicans out there in California, that's the best they could do. She really has no qualifications except that she was an amazing athlete, and she hasn't been outspoken for the LGBTQ community. She hasn't really done anything but play.
You were making fun of her being in the pentathlon the other day. Don't be saying she's an amazing athlete.
Oh no, there's no way I would have made
pentathlon or whatever,
pentathlete or decathlete, because that was something that it's near and dear to my heart. Yeah. I mean, I did that when I was in school, when they would let girls do that. So I don't think I would have made fun of her, Murray. I think I made fun of her lack of qualification.
Yeah, she was a decathlete. She won the gold medal for the decathlon.
She looked good doing it. Either way, she looked great. So
no, but the bizarre nature of politics in California, it's a long shot, but she could be the next governor, because the way that election works, and I did the deep dive with Bruce Williams, political activist from California.
Yeah.
The way that election works is, first the folks are asked to vote yes or no. Do you want to recall the governor? If the no's outnumber the yes, then the second question they're asked has relevance. And that is, if you recall the governor, who do you want to replace the governor? And literally whoever there'll be so many people running in that one. Yeah. Whoever comes in first will be the next governor. Exactly. So if MAGA can stir up enough opposition to the governor out there, Gavin Newsom, Caitlyn Jenner could be the next governor of California. Nah, it's a long shot.
No. I'm so sorry, California.
Newsom,
I'd have to put you on the banned list.
Newsom is no Gray Davis, and Jenner is no Schwarzenegger.
Or Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
He was an actor too.
Yeah, but
turned
I mean,
out.
that was the last recall that they did was Gray Davis for Arnold
Oh, yeah,
Schwarzenegger,
that's
and
right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was just off the top of his career right then, and he could have run for anything. He could have run for God and been elected, you know. So,
You know, Heidi, I'm going to say that 9 out of 10 times I would agree with you, and I would be saying the same thing. Except when I heard you say that, I had an echo in my head of conversations I've had going back to 1980, and where I was 1980. I was a political geek. I was very young, but I was like, "There's no way Ronald Reagan, a B actor, is going to be elected president." He got elected president.
I thought the same thing.
There's no way Jesse Ventura, a wrestler, will get elected governor. He got elected governor. There's no way Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's like sounds Germanic, is gonna he got elected governor. No way Donald Trump. No way Donald Trump's gonna get. And every time I say that,
yeah.
So when Heidi brings her sunshine and unicorn urine to the table, I flash back like you, Ben, to absolutely everything you just said. Humans know no depth to their stupidity. People are different from humans, but humans, we can go farther. We've never hit bottom.
I think, if Gavin Newsom hadn't gone to the wine country for a party, we wouldn't have this discussion. So he's that stupid that he would do that. So maybe too stupid to be governor or be a politician or a public servant. But I don't think that, I just don't see it happening. I mean, but me, I'm thinking sunshine and not.
Listen, I always do this when we talk about prognostications. I do what's in my head and what's in my heart. And so if I got to put money in Vegas, and having listened to Bruce Williams' recitation about all the advantages Gavin Newsom has, I put my money on Gavin Newsom winning. I mean,
I heard the show.
He's got the money advantage, the name recognition advantage. Yeah. They're already running it as a Trump move. And Trump's very unpopular in California.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as a long suffering Chicago sports fan, I always expect to lose. So it's like. Whatever, it's balancing.
See, Ben, you have to be like me and just give up watching sports. I don't watch TV. I don't watch sports. I don't listen to it. Once the Cubs went off the radio, I was just done. And I can't stand the Ricketts, so I'm just.
Well,
done.
The Cubs are still on the radio. You just don't listen. They're not on WGN anymore.
Right.
You just don't listen to them.
No.
All right, we're pretty much out of time. But before we do, wasn't there a face mask story you were going to tell me, Heidi?
Well,
something about.
So here's me. I live between two really tiny towns, Marseilles, Illinois, and Seneca, Illinois. Really small towns. One's about 5,000 people. The other one's about 3,800 people. And I try to shop local to keep our tax dollars in our community, right? And so I go. I needed some bulbs for my little Tiffany lamp that's on my desk. So I go down to the Ace Hardware in Seneca because I'd been to the hardware store that's not affiliated with anything in Marseilles, and I was the only one with a mask on the week before. So I thought, I'm going to go to Seneca because some friends of ours used to own it. I go in there, and as I'm parking, I see Officer Erickson from the Seneca PD get out of his little SUV and his 2XL vest, walk in there, no mask on, just like he owns the place. And the problem with being in Seneca is it's such a small town that we know people that have died personally. We know people who have been sick. We know the trouble that COVID has caused. And he's just swinging his arms and walking through the store. And I'm like, damn it, I have to get these bulbs. I don't want to drive to Morris to Menards. So I go in there. I just take the back route. I go by where the bulbs are. And all the hairy bubbas are standing there by the rental desk. No masks on. I'm like, oh God, I've entered no man's land. So I'm checking out and Harry Bubba in the police vest. And here's somebody who wants me to back the blue is standing there with his stuff and he's getting close. And I told him, I said, you're going to have to back up. My husband has cancer. And he's like, because he's in my space with no mask on. I have my mask on. I'm just buying bulbs. And he says to me, well, I've already had it. And I said, you only have antibodies for a few weeks after that. He goes, just waves his hands. Yeah, that stuff's not real anyway. I'm like, I am just so out of here. So I tried to call the chief of police Chief Lamboli and ask him about that. Never heard back because I don't live in town, so he probably doesn't really care what I say. But I said to him, to Officer Erickson, I said, "You're here to serve and protect the people." I said, "I would think as an officer of the law, you would take that very seriously." Yeah, it's just not real. And I was just like, what is wrong with people? I'm wondering if he's got his what is it, COSPA, C-SPA all paid up, and maybe he's attended the fair conference recently.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for sure, but I'm just wondering. We're kind of traveling down that path. But that was my rant that Marie and I were going to talk about on our show at 3:00 on the live stream.
No, rant away. I hear you, and I was just having a conversation about somebody who claims that he doesn't need a shot because he had it and he's protected. And I don't know where he got this for 17 years.
Yeah.
And that, like, where did that number come?
Okay,
You know what I mean?
17 years?
I love my dog groomer. Okay, she's an amazing woman, and she's been careful. And her husband's a physical therapist, and she has kids and a mother-in-law with cancer living with her, and so she's been good. But they got COVID back in November, so I haven't seen them. And of course, still masked outside, vaccinated, and I bring the dogs to get groomed, and she. I'm like, "Oh, did you get the vaccine?" And she's like, "No, we just got tested again recently and we still have the antibodies. So we're not doing it until the antibodies are gone." And I'm like, "Well, okay, I wish that worked. I wish science works that way, but it doesn't."
Yeah.
Because we don't even know the antibody tests are legitimate or at what level. So it's just all kind of crazy.
Ben, I have students now. We have a school district just south of us that's been shut for 3 weeks because of COVID infections. So I don't know if the officer thinks that there's like a wall between Grand Ridge, Illinois and Seneca, Illinois, that it can't come there. I'm not sure if that's what the issue is, but I do know that we have the UK variant right here in Marseilles where I live. So when
the VA home, the big outbreak that happened at the LaSalle County Veterans Home last winter. Okay.
Yeah.
My dad is a resident there.
Right there.
And they had how many, I can't remember off the top of my head, how many veterans died, how many were infected. So they all got vaccinated. And then they had a case of a reinfection after he had COVID and he had been fully vaccinated and was 2 weeks past. Last week, they had 3 cases.
Yeah.
So you can't depend on anything. You need to continue to be safe.
Yeah.
And we're almost to the other side, people. Just buck up and do the right thing.
Yeah. All right. That's Heidi Henry, Murray Brew of the Heartland Mamas. And one more time, tell folks where they can follow your podcast, check out your rants and raves, great thoughts, views of the world. Belief in Liz Cheney, but not Adam Kinzinger, all that good stuff. Go ahead.
So you can find us at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook today at 3:00, every Tuesday and Thursday at 3:00, part of the Demcast USA network. And we have an independent radio show called Heartland Mamas on Rolled next week featuring Dr. DeVay from Ottawa, Illinois. So
And you have those super cool T-shirt. Folks can't see this, obviously, because we don't have the cameras on, but I can see it over Heidi's shoulder. It says the Heartland Moms. I want a shirt like that.
It's got sunflowers on it.
You're going to get one. You and
I will
Dennis.
probably wear one. My Heartland Mamas T-shirt.
Heidi,
We'll get you a hat with Heartland Mamas on the bill instead of
that would be awesome.
You're both one.
Heidi, I was hoping you can explain something for us real quick. You said it a few times. Harry Bubba? What is that?
Oh, yeah.
You kept saying, I'm like, what is that? Can you describe for everybody a Harry Bubba?
Have you ever been to a car show?
Absolutely.
Or a tractor pull?
Absolutely.
Okay. County fair.
Okay. I know a Harry Bubba.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a hairy one.
Uh,
And those are 3 places.
Generally,
I
they
hang
have
out,
an oversized truck to compensate for an undersized.
with a pair of plastic testicles hanging from them.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, the plastic
or the metal
testicles.
ones. That's a hairy bubba.
Yeah.
By the way, we will. Dennis was asking me before the show if I've ever been on a horse. I think he asked me, "Have you ever rode a horse?" And Heidi Henry is trains people, teaches them how to ride horses. She's a horse breeder. She loves. I think there's a saddle behind her somewhere in that barn of hers, and she loves horses, ladies and gentlemen. So I had to tell Dennis very honestly, I'm not sure if you could technically say I rode the horse. I got on the horse Did not like it. And then the horse moved. And I go, get me off this freaking horse. And Dennis said, since I was on the horse while it was moving, that technically I rode the horse.
That's true.
I'd say it's, yeah. Yeah. In our current language, being woefully insufficient, you did ride the horse. I mean,
if I were Donald Trump, I would turn that into I rode in the Kentucky Derby. And I was the winner of the Kentucky Derby.
And you didn't juice at all.
All right, Heidi Henry Murray Brill, thank you very much.
Man.
Absolutely, it's always a blast.
Thanks,
the Heartland
Steve.
Mamas.
Bye.
And I also want to thank Gregory Pratt from the Chicago Tribune. Great job he did. Come to the rally this Saturday, 5 o'clock at Freedom Center. And I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy in Alton, Illinois, who loves horses, ladies and gentlemen.
Have you ever been to a tractor pull?
I've never been. I've seen it on TV, ABC Wide World of Sports. Tractor pull.
All right, this summer, once Illinois is back open,
We're
me,
going to a
tractor pull.
We're going to visit Heidi and Murray. We're going to do a show there, and you're going to get on that horse and go, giddy up.
Meet me at the tractor
anyway.
pull. Tick, 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 tick.
What was I saying? Oh, yes. Back home in Alton, as Heidi and Murray will tell you, they call him Dr. D. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
I want an answer. I want an answer.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
Take a chill pill, man. Take a chill pill, man.
I want an answer. I want an answer.
Take a chill pill, man. Take a chill pill, man.
I want an answer.